Freddie Prinze was a rising star in Hollywood, a gifted comedian and actor whose charm and quick wit made him an instant favorite among audiences. Best known for his role as Chico Rodriguez on Chico and the Man, Prinze quickly became one of the biggest names in entertainment during the 1970s. But behind the laughter was a young man struggling with fame, depression, and personal demons. At just 22 years old, his life came to a tragic and shocking end, leaving behind a legacy of both immense talent and deep sorrow. This is the heartbreaking story of Freddie Prinze. On January 28, 1977, Freddie Prinze made a distressing phone call to his ex-wife, and by the end of the conversation it was clear he was deeply troubled. Concerned for his well-being, a friend attempted to lift his spirits by doing comedic impressions over the phone, but the effort failed to cheer him up. That same night, Prinze reached out to multiple family members and close friends, making alarming and ominous statements that suggested his despair was reaching a breaking point. Freddie Prinze Sr. rose to fame as a Latino entertainer, but his true heritage was more complex. Born on June 22, 1954, in New York City, his real name was Frederick Carl Prutzel, while his mother, Maria de Gracia Graniela y Ramirez, was from Puerto Rico. His father, Edward Carl Prutzel, was a German immigrant. Throughout his life, Prinze embraced both sides of his background, yet many people mistakenly assumed he was fully Hispanic. His path into show business was anything but conventional. As a child, his mother enrolled him in ballet classes, but not because she saw him as a future dancer. Instead, she hoped the physical activity would help her chubby son lose weight. Unexpectedly, the classes did more than that. They unlocked his creative side, ultimately setting him on a path toward performing. Prince's comedic talent was something he inherited from his father, Edward, who had a gift for both music and humor. By the time Prinze was 4 years old, he was already memorizing his father's jokes and delivering them to anyone who would listen, a preview of the comedic career that would later make him a star. But despite the humor they shared, their father-son relationship had a darker side. Before Freddie was born, Edward carried a devastating tragedy from his past. In his first marriage, he had a 5-year-old daughter named Alice. One day while Edward was painting, he became so engrossed in his work that he lost track of time and forgot about her. When he finally realized she was missing, he made a horrifying discovery. Alice had drowned in a swimming pool. The loss broke him completely, leaving him unable to forgive himself or fully care for a family again. Growing up, Freddie Prinze's childhood was marked by constant danger. His mother recalled how their apartment building was far from safe. She was robbed multiple times, even in the elevator. On top of that, his father's inconsistent income only added to their sense of insecurity. Later that year, Vincent controversially found himself involved in legal proceedings, testifying in court on behalf of Provenzano, who was serving time for racketeering and other charges. Vincent also found a way to branch out into more mainstream, lighter roles. In 2005, he appeared in a British television commercial for Peugeot cars, showcasing his ability to diversify beyond the tough guy roles he was known for. The same year, he appeared in a series of commercials for the Irish bank Permanent TSB, continuing to expand his career into advertising. While his acting career was flourishing, Vincent also ventured into the world of video games. He voiced the character of Salvatore Leone, the mafia boss, in the Grand Theft Auto video games. His portrayal of Leone in Grand Theft Auto 3, 2001, was so well received that he reprised the role in both Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, 2004, and Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, 2005, making him a memorable part of one of the most successful video game franchises in history. In 2006, Vincent released a book titled A Guy's Guide to Being a Man's Man, which was met with positive reviews. The book was a reflection of Vincent's tough guy persona and his view on masculinity. In addition to his book, he also released a line of hand-rolled cigars, which featured his image on the band. These ventures demonstrated Vincent's entrepreneurial spirit, extending his influence beyond acting and into lifestyle branding. His career continued to flourish with roles in independent films. In 2008, he played Lieutenant Marino in The Tested, a gritty drama directed by Russell Costanzo. A year later, Vincent made a cameo appearance in the Stargate Atlantis episode Vegas, 2009, alongside fellow Sopranos actor Steve Schirripa. The following year, he starred in Chicago Overcoat, 2009, taking on the main protagonist role in this crime thriller. Vincent's career even expanded into the world of comics. In 2013, he starred in the IDW publishing comic series Kilogi, which was created by Alan Robert of Life of Agony. Vincent portrayed the character Sally Snow Cones, a role that allowed him to bring his tough guy persona into the world of graphic novels. The series was a hit, earning nominations at the Ghastly Awards and winning multiple horror comic awards from the Horror News Network. The popularity of Kilogi led to an adaptation of the comics into a 3D animated series in 2014, with Vincent and his fellow comic cast members lending their voices to the animated characters. By 2003, Frank Vincent had become one of the most recognizable actors in the mafia genre, seamlessly portraying tough, calculating, and often ruthless characters. His role in This Thing of Ours further reinforced his reputation as an actor deeply connected to organized crime narratives. In the film, Vincent played Danny Santini, a capo regime in the Genovese crime family, who finds himself involved in a high-stakes internet heist led by his ambitious nephew, Nicky Santini. The title of the film itself, This Thing of Ours, translates to Cosa Nostra, the term used by the Italian-American mafia to describe their secret criminal society. This choice of title, along with Vincent's involvement, immediately signaled the film's deep-rooted ties to real-life mafia culture. What made This Thing of Ours particularly unique was that it wasn't just another Hollywood-made mafia film. It was produced and directed by individuals with direct ties to organized crime. John Sonny Franzese, a longtime underboss of the Colombo crime family, served as an associate producer on the film. Additionally, the film's director and co-writer Danny Provenzano was the grandnephew of Anthony Tony Provenzano, a feared member of the Genovese crime family. Danny Provenzano himself was later convicted of racketeering and sentenced to 10 years in prison for extortion, loan sharking, and other mafia-related crimes. This level of real-world connection gave This Thing of Ours an air of authenticity that most crime films lacked, blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Vincent's participation in this project was a testament to how deeply intertwined his career had become with the depiction of the mafia, both on-screen and off. His portrayal of Danny Santini once again demonstrated his ability to bring to life the complexities of organized crime figures. Men who were not just ruthless criminals, but also strategists navigating the dangerous world of power, loyalty, and betrayal. Audiences, already familiar with Vincent's performances in Goodfellas, Casino, and The Sopranos, found his role in This Thing of Ours to be another compelling addition to his legacy in the crime genre. However, Vincent's association with organized crime extended beyond the screen in 2003. By the time Freddie Prinze reached his late teens, he was a full-fledged celebrity. But with fame came immense pressure. The relentless media attention, intense work schedule, and mounting personal struggles made him feel like he was trapped with no escape. To cope with his growing anxiety, he began self-medicating with prescription pills, convinced that they helped him keep up with his demanding lifestyle. What started as an attempt to manage stress soon spiraled into a dangerous dependence on drugs, setting him on a tragic downward path. Prince's insecurities and frustrations only deepened when he learned that a major magazine had considered putting him on its cover, only to choose John Travolta instead. At a time when he was already emotionally fragile, this rejection hit hard. Instead of brushing it off, he took it personally, seeing it as a sign that he wasn't getting the recognition he deserved. His paranoia grew, and he became fixated on proving himself or getting revenge, allowing his resentments to fester. Some accounts claim that Prince's anger toward Travolta reached a breaking point in an alarming incident. Overcome with rage, he allegedly marched up to Travolta's home armed with a pistol. Fortunately, Travolta wasn't there, and no one was harmed. But the event exposed Prince's increasingly erratic and impulsive behavior, which his friends and colleagues blamed on stress, exhaustion, and substance abuse. His inner turmoil was becoming harder to ignore. Despite his escalating struggles, Prinze remained a magnet for glamorous women. One of his rumored romances was with Raquel Welch, the Hollywood icon best known for her fur bikini-clad role in 1,000,000 Years BC. Their age difference and her legendary status didn't seem to matter, at least on the surface. But even as he found himself linked to some of the most famous women in the industry, it did little to fill the void he felt inside. Beneath the charm and bravado, Prinze was deeply unhappy, struggling to find stability. Amid his personal chaos, Prince's career continued to soar. NBC offered him a sitcom, Chico and the Man, in which he played a lively, street-smart Mexican-American youth opposite an older, grumpy mechanic. The show became an instant success, skyrocketing his fame and making him a household name. But behind the laughs and charm, his inner demons raged on. He also faced criticism from some in the Latino community for portraying a Chicano character when he wasn't actually Mexican. As the pressure mounted, so did his self-destructive tendencies, and the signs of a tragic end became impossible to ignore. By 1974, Chico and the Man had made Freddie Prinze a household name. With sky-high ratings and audiences adoring his character Chico, he seemed to be on an unstoppable rise. But behind the laughter and applause, he was buckling under the pressure. The relentless expectations to be funny every week, coupled with constant media scrutiny, began to take a serious toll on his mental health. However, not everyone celebrated his success. Some Chicano activists took issue with how the show portrayed Mexican Americans, particularly Prince's famous catchphrase, "That's not my job." Critics argued that it reinforced stereotypes, reducing Latino identity to a punchline. Under public pressure, NBC decided to change the phrase to "looking good" in an attempt to soften the controversy. Though it seemed like a small adjustment, it was a clear sign of the tightrope Prinze was walking, constantly caught between staying true to himself and satisfying network executives. This struggle became even more personal when critics started questioning his ethnicity. Prinze had always embraced both sides of his heritage, calling himself Hungarican to reflect his Hungarian father and Puerto Rican mother. But now, some felt he shouldn't be portraying a Chicano character at all, arguing that he was misrepresenting a culture that wasn't fully his. With the show's success on the line, he felt pressured to maintain the image, even if it meant compromising his own identity. The constant scrutiny, playing a Mexican-American character navigating Hollywood politics and fending off critical backlash, wore Prinze down emotionally. Already struggling with anxiety, he turned to prescription medication as an escape, particularly Quaaludes. At first, they seemed to help him cope, but soon he depended on them just to function. The more he used them, the deeper he sank into a cycle of self-destruction. In an attempt to get his mental health under control, Prinze sought professional help. A psychiatrist, convinced that he needed medication to handle his stress, prescribed him large amounts of Quaaludes. At the time, doctors frequently prescribed the drug without fully understanding its addictive potential. What was meant to be a temporary solution quickly turned into a serious dependency, pushing Prinze further into a dangerous downward spiral. Before his final downward spiral, Freddie Prinze sought stability in his personal life. He pursued a serious relationship with actress Pam Grier, urging her to settle down with him. But Grier, having witnessed his self-destructive habits, depression, and increasing dependence on drugs, refused his proposal. She later revealed that she was deeply concerned about his mental state, believing that he wasn't in a place to handle marriage or fatherhood. Her rejection left Prinze devastated, further deepening his emotional struggles. Meanwhile, his dependency on Quaaludes worsened. His doctor prescribed him an alarming amount, 100 tablets of 300 milligrams each, a dangerously high dosage. This led him to stockpile the pills, turning them into a crutch for every emotional crisis. Whenever stress, anxiety, or disappointment hit, he reached for another pill, convinced it would temporarily ease the pain. It was a ticking time bomb, but on the surface, everything appeared fine. His sitcom, Chico and the Man, continued to thrive, forcing Prinze to keep up appearances despite his private struggles. Despite the growing rumors about his mental health and potential self-harm, Prinze sent mixed signals. In conversations with friends, he sometimes expressed a strong will to live. In one discussion about capital punishment, he firmly stated that no one had the right to take a life, not even their own. He insisted, as long as you're alive, you have hope. On some days, he genuinely believed in those words, but on others, the weight of his personal demons was impossible to ignore. Even as his public persona remained intact, those closest to him saw the cracks begin to show. On camera, he was the charming, witty Chico, but behind the scenes he became moody, unpredictable, and withdrawn. He often arrived late to filming, sometimes visibly depressed, frustrating the network and production team. While the show's executives tried to manage his downward spiral quietly, it became increasingly difficult to hide the reality of his declining state. Seeking a sense of normalcy, Prinze turned to marriage. In 1975, at just 21 years old, he married Kathy Cochran in a private ceremony at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. The wedding, held in his hotel suite, was intimate, with only close family and friends present. 1 year later, in March 1976, they welcomed a baby boy, Freddie Prinze Jr. Prinze hoped that fatherhood would give him the stability and purpose he desperately needed, but his internal struggles continued to weigh him down. His wife, Kathy Cochran, often woke up to find him motionless in bed, surrounded by pill bottles, lost in a drug-induced stupor. She tried desperately to help him, but his addiction had taken hold. Their arguments intensified, and soon their marriage began to unravel. In November 1976, things took a turn for the worse. Police pulled Prinze over after noticing him swerving on the road. Attempting to talk his way out of it, he joked about his celebrity status, but the officer wasn't amused. Instead of letting him go, they arrested him. As if that wasn't bad enough, rumors spread that illicit substances were involved. Prinze, already feeling trapped by fame, now felt cornered by scandal. The incident shattered his marriage, making his downward spiral even worse. Soon after, Variety broke the news. Freddie Prinze had been arrested for erratic driving, possibly under the influence of Quaaludes. Fans, who had always seen him as a clean-cut, lovable star, were shocked and disappointed. Meanwhile, Cochran had had enough. Tired of watching her husband self-destruct, she ended their marriage and took their infant son with her. Prinze was now completely alone with nothing but his addiction and crumbling mental health to keep him company. Without his family, Prinze spiraled further. He started binging on pills more frequently, and his behavior became erratic and frightening. In an alarming new habit, he would pull out a gun in front of friends, half joking about playing Russian roulette. His terrified friends pleaded with him to stop, but at first he insisted it was harmless, keeping the safety on. However, as his reckless behavior escalated, the game became more dangerous, and those closest to him began to fear the worst. As his mental state deteriorated, Prinze underwent the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, a psychological test designed to assess emotional stability. The results were disturbing. His doctor found him to be paranoid, hostile, and severely disoriented, recommending either intensive psychiatric outpatient care or full inpatient treatment. But Prinze refused to acknowledge the severity of his condition. Instead, he dismissed the findings, convincing himself that his career mattered more than slowing down. Even as his life fell apart, he kept pushing forward, unaware that he was running out of time. In January 1977, Freddie Prinze received what should have been a career-defining honor, an invitation from President-elect Jimmy Carter to perform at his pre-inaugural gala. It was a pivotal moment, proof of his comedic stardom and growing influence. But instead of celebrating, Prinze was consumed with anxiety. The fear of messing up on such a grand stage pushed him deeper into drug use, relying on pills to steady his nerves. In the days leading up to the event, he had one final lunch with his childhood friend, Ray Andrade, who unknowingly issued a chilling warning. During their conversation, Andrade confronted Prinze about his heavy drug use, warning him, "If you don't stop, you'll kill yourself." For a brief moment, Prinze pushed back, insisting that suicide wasn't an option. He repeated a phrase he had often told others, "As long as you're alive, you have hope." It seemed like he still believed in the possibility of recovery. But just days later, after performing at Carter's gala, his downward spiral deepened. On January 28, 1977, Prinze called his ex-wife, Kathy Cochran. By the time they ended the conversation, it was clear that he was in a dark place emotionally. Concerned for his well-being, a friend attempted to lift his spirits by doing comedic impressions over the phone, hoping to break his sadness with laughter. But nothing worked. That same night, Prinze made multiple phone calls to his family and close friends, leaving behind ominous and unsettling messages, a final cry for help. Alarmed by Prince's distress, his manager, Marvin "Dusty" Snyder, rushed to his apartment. Upon arriving, Snyder found Prinze on the phone, speaking to one loved one after another, as if he were saying goodbye. As Snyder stood by, Prinze calmly reached under a cushion and retrieved a gun, the same weapon he had previously used in his dangerous game of Russian roulette. This time, however, it was no joke. Without hesitation, Prinze raised the gun to his temple and pulled the trigger. Snyder could only watch in horrified disbelief as the moment unfolded before him. Paramedics rushed to the scene and transported Prinze to UCLA Medical Center, where doctors fought desperately to save his life. His mother, ex-wife, and closest friends gathered at the hospital clinging to hope for a miracle. But when the surgeons emerged, their words were devastating. Prince's brain activity was nearly non-existent. The final curtain had fallen on a life that had burned too bright, too fast. Prince's mother, heartbroken and desperate, called for a priest to administer last rites. As the night dragged on, his family sat in the waiting room, overcome with grief and disbelief. The medical team delivered grim updates, making it clear that there was no hope for recovery. By 4 a.m., there were no signs of brain activity. With no chance of survival, his loved ones faced the unimaginable decision whether to keep him on life support or let him go. On January 29, 1977, the doctors removed life support, and Freddie Prinze Sr. passed away at just 22 years old. The entertainment industry was shaken. The rising star, known for his humor and charm, had met a sudden, tragic end. Fans struggled to make sense of it, asking, how could someone so funny and full of life do something so heartbreaking? But while the public grieved a celebrity, Prince's family was left to face a much deeper pain, the loss of a son, a father, and a brother. As the mourning began, a controversy quickly unfolded. Was Prince's death truly a suicide, or was it a tragic accident? The distinction mattered immensely, particularly for life insurance claims. If it was ruled a suicide, the policy wouldn't pay out, leaving his family with nothing. His loved ones insisted that it wasn't intentional, arguing that he had a habit of playing with the gun as a joke. His friends testified that he often performed Russian roulette-style stunts, never actually meaning to harm himself. But proving that theory in court was another challenge altogether. Some believe that Prince never intended to die that night. His history of using the gun as a prop, combined with his typical on-stage dramatics, suggested that his final act may have been a horrible miscalculation. He had frequently pretended to shoot himself, always ensuring the safety was on. Was it possible that this time he simply made a fatal mistake? While this theory gave his family hope, another piece of evidence complicated the case. A suicide note was discovered, throwing doubt on the idea that his death was an accident. If he had written a final message, it suggested that his intentions had been clear. The legal battle over his cause of death intensified, with his family desperately needing a ruling that could secure the insurance payout. At first, it seemed like a losing fight. But then, attorneys shifted their focus to a different angle, the role of the doctors, who had freely prescribed Prince excessive amounts of medication despite clear signs of his deteriorating mental health. Some also pointed to the people who had helped Freddie Prinze obtain the gun, particularly his fellow comedians Jimmy Walker, famous for his role as JJ on Good Times, and Alan Bursky. They had accompanied him when he purchased the firearm, a fact that left some wondering if they or others around him could have stepped in to prevent his death. However, the courts focused their attention elsewhere, particularly on the doctors who had recklessly prescribed him medication. Prince's family argued that his addiction wasn't just personal. It had been fueled by medical negligence. His doctors had refilled excessively high doses of Quaaludes for months, creating a state of mental fog that made it impossible for him to think clearly. They contended that in this sedative-induced haze, he wasn't in control of his actions. The argument resonated, and in court, it became a crucial turning point. After reviewing the evidence, the jury ruled that Prince's death was not suicide, but a case of medication-induced misjudgment. This verdict classified his passing as accidental, forcing the insurance company to pay out $200,000 to his estate. With this victory, his family then pursued a malpractice lawsuit against the doctors, arguing that they should have intervened, not only in his prescription habits but also in preventing him from having access to a gun. To avoid a long and highly publicized court battle, the doctors settled out of court, agreeing to pay approximately $1 million to Prince's estate. While no amount of money could replace what was lost, The settlement provided financial security for his young son, Freddie Prinze Jr., and the rest of the family. It was a bittersweet conclusion to a tragic chapter, ensuring that Freddie Jr. wouldn't have to grow up struggling financially, even as he grappled with the emotional weight of his father's death. In an effort to escape the painful reminders of Hollywood, Prince's widow Kathy Cochran moved with their son to New Mexico. However, Freddie Jr.'s grandfather saw potential in the boy and encouraged him to continue his father's showbiz dreams. Over time, Freddie Prinze Jr. found his own place in the entertainment industry, becoming a teen heartthrob in the late 1990s, known for starring in romantic comedies and major Hollywood films. Unlike his father, however, he chose a much steadier path. Now an adult, Freddie Prinze Jr. has openly reflected on the impact of his father's legacy. Though he jokes that his father's comedy albums still bring him joy, he has been deliberate in forging a different life for himself. He made a conscious decision to avoid substance abuse, build a stable career, and nurture a strong, lasting marriage to actress Sarah Michelle Gellar. Above all, he has prioritized being a dedicated father, determined to break the cycle of emotional pain that plagued his father. For years, Freddie Prinze Jr. remained largely silent about his father's death, but he later revealed that as a child, he blamed himself, constantly wondering, "Why wasn't I enough to make him stay?" No one had ever explained the depth of his father's depression or struggles with addiction. Only as an adult, and as a father himself, did he come to understand that his father's pain was far greater than anything he could have controlled. Even though he now sees the truth behind his father's struggles, the scars still remain, serving as a poignant reminder that even the brightest stars can hide immense sorrow beneath their laughter. Freddie Prinze's life was filled with incredible highs and devastating lows. He reached the pinnacle of success at a young age, but the pressures of fame, personal struggles, and inner turmoil ultimately led to his tragic passing. Though his time was short, his impact on comedy and television remains unforgettable. What are your memories of Freddie Prinze and Chico and The Man? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoy deep dives into the lives of Hollywood's brightest stars, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out more stories of the legends who left us too soon.